Hi guys, so today I'm going to start with the Mystical Shaman Oracle, and it happens to be the Mystical Shaman. I thought that was so awesome. Number 38, I'm just going to read all the way through because this is a beautiful card. The symbol of the myth maker, the storyteller, who is neither made nor defined by the story. Instead, he observes it, evolves through it, perceives all aspects of it. In doing so, the mystical shaman represents the ability to dream a new story, a new myth into being. He dances between worlds, wearing the cloak of the world loosely around his shoulders, and sings to the world into being. He reminds us into being in the world and traveling through it, but not to be defined by it or to become too attached to its experience. This is the symbol of a true alchemy, for all elements of life have a spiritual aspect and a material one. I love that. When we remember this, all manner of miracles and manifestations are possible. The invitation says, when the mystical shaman appears, you are invited to consider the ability to live without attachment. You are called to create and dream your life, to act on inspiration and divine impulse without fixating on the known story of success or achievement. Can you impartially observe the stories you tell yourself and others? What if you could become a mystery to yourself? Who would you become if you stopped telling the tales that have defined you up until now? You do not have to live a story that has roots in the past. What if there was no need to explain to anyone, not even to yourself? The way to your most extraordinary life is become a blank slate and allow the form of your dreams and desires to show up as it will. This is a sign of manifesting a life beyond your wildest dreams. And that's just beautiful. That's kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I need to feel this because I've kind of been all over the place, and it's weird because it's like I'll be getting so excited about every little thing. And while I love that I do that, a lot of times it makes me kind of like distracted, and I'll just get lost in something, then overdo it. And then I have to kind of stop and think, why am I doing this? Right. So I'm working on that. So maybe you're working on that too. I think there's a little bit deeperness to this, but I feel like that was something I needed to mention. And so when I pull oracles, if like 2 comes out, depending on the situation, if it's more than that, I'll take it. But usually like if it's 2, I'll keep the 2. So a second one came out. And there's this cute little squirrel I wish I could show you. But anyway, in this area, there's those black squirrels. I'm sorry, side story, can't help it. But in Northeast Ohio, and they actually were kind of brought here from Canada or whatever. But they're so awesome. I wish I could say, give a picture. But anyway, long story, and I'm over with that. So anyway, so that was number 38, which can kind of be an 11 also. And then if you look, we have 11 over there in the... Santa Muerte Oracle, so maybe that means something to you. But yeah, okay. So anyway, so this other mystical shaman card, and this is kind of interesting. Okay, so you see how like in the Vision Quest, number 60, you see how she's kind of dancing there. And then I don't know why, but like, okay, I'm just going to try and link all these weird things. When I first got in my car, like, and I have not had my radio on a long time, which is really sad to say because I love music and forever that was just what I did. But I have an old car and I have to connect it to my phone, but my phone is newer and more advanced than my car. So I have to have the right plug. Long story, and it's really sad, but that's what it is. Anyway, so like a lot of times I don't turn on my stereo anymore. And I don't always listen to the radio, but anyway, so I got in my car like to go do this or whatever. And the radio was on, which is really weird. That hasn't ever happened, and I can ever remember. So, number 1, there might be something wrong with my car. Number 2, Pat Benatar came on. Love is a Battlefield. Maybe that means something to you. And oh my goodness, I just figured it out. Okay, so you know how she dances in the video? If you don't know, then you're not old. But anyway, my mom was a huge Pat Benatar fan when I was a little girl. But she's just this very powerful woman, and I feel like, I mean, this could be for a man too, but I feel like this is somebody who has like a strong feminine energy, and it's a very, not aggressive, but it's a very strong feminine presence. But also, maybe there's something about dancing, because if you look at the Vision Quest and you look at the 3 of Wands, but you also look at Kali Ma, they're dancing, right? There's something about, maybe it's like a shamanic dancing or shamanic singing, something about music and movement, and maybe that's for somebody, but it might be something that somebody needs to do, or maybe it's something that resonates with you. So there's that. We'll just go with that. I hope that is something that maybe spark something in somebody. But anyway, so we'll go to the card number 60 with the Vision Quest. In the Vision Quest, you face fear, embrace your mortality, and then meet face to face with spirit. When we feel stagnant, a vision quest brings our lives into perspective. We realize our flaws, our potential, and the opportunities life is now offering us. We remain on a vision quest until we find the key to open a new door or write a new chapter in our lives. Find clarity in spending time alone in nature. If you live in a city, go to walks in the park. If you live in the country, make sure you spend time outside and in contemplation. Get off the couch, get away from your desk, and go outside. Spirit helps those who help themselves. So set your intention and go ask nature for a guiding vision for your life. Okay, that was one for me, because lately I've been like hyper focusing on, not outside things, which I love it out there. But lately I'll come home from work and then I obsess over something else, and then I barely spend any time the last couple of days. So I really need to get outside. So, and then when you think about spending time in nature, that's a very powerful, strong feminine energy also. So I feel like somebody is being called to kind of do that. Dance with nature, feel that deep rhythm, right? There's something about rhythm also. And maybe, yes, shamanic practices. And the reason why I like shamanism is because there's no right way or wrong way. And I kind of come to the understanding that everything is that way. I think it's just people have limited ways of expressing. So a lot of times when that's all we know, we just kind of put out what we put out. That's like, when I was talking about yesterday about, creating your own ritual, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, you have to find what makes you feel that. And when you do, that's your thing, right? It's like reaffirming that emotion, that feeling in yourself so that you can get to that space and you can get to that deeper understanding. I don't know why I said that, but maybe that meant something to somebody. So, but it also talks about strength in that card, like finding your own, battles, right? And in the strength card in the first column, that's what she's doing. She is, the beast is the lion, right? That represents that deep, fierce, strong beast. But she has enough tenderness and enough compassion to, face her fears and be gentle with the lion, because she understands that lion is gentle in itself. So this is really about taming the wild beast within yourself. That's what the strength card is about. So I feel like somebody is really trying to get in touch with that part of ourself, our wild self, right? Because that wild part of yourself is amazing. And once you kind of get that, when you kind of are able to tap into it, even for a brief second, your eyes kind of open up and you're kind of like, oh, wow. You know what I mean? There's so much more to this. There's so much more to whatever this is, right? So I feel like that's something that means something for somebody. But I also feel like we have the Three of Wands. Now, in this card, she is expressing herself, and she's in the middle of the desert, right? And she's dancing and, being fully herself. And I feel like that's what this is about. I know that Three of Wands a lot of times can be about expansion and stuff like that. But I also feel, for some reason, this just feels to me like somebody needs to go have a thing. You need to experience the depths of what it means to be you. I don't know how else to say that. Because there's so many ways that people can do that. Whatever makes you feel alive, what makes you feel in tune with that depth of yourself, that's what somebody needs to do. And in doing that, you might meet your inner beast, right? You might meet that thing that you're scared of. And maybe that's what you're scared of, is truly being yourself. And I think that that's important, that you kind of need to tame that. Not tame that beast within, but tame your reaction to the beast. Yes. So my second column is always kind of what we need to focus on, and, good or bad. And then we have the Magician, and we also have Kalima, which is death in here, which if you look over there on the other side, we actually, both of those are kind of like death cards. So that's kind of cool. Somebody's through a deep transformation. I feel like either you're into some sort of practice, or there's something happening within you where you're alchemizing the things that you've been through. And that's really kind of what it is, right? That's kind of what a vision quest is you kind of in different tribes or whatever, or different mythologies even. There's things where, you go on this quest and you learn these things along the way, the whole hero's journey thing. And then, you gather this stuff, and you do, as you're going along with these things that you're gathering, you learn how to transform it, right? In the, you go from the fool, ready to just take it on. And then, you're observing. And then when you get to the magician, you're just kind of like, taking those things and alchemizing them, learning how things work, right? And a lot of times I think sometimes with the magician, sometimes we kind of, we focus more on the coolness, right, of the alchemy. We're like, we spend too much time on like, oh, wow, this is really cool. This could work this way. Or the details, right? So I don't know why that came up, but maybe that's important for somebody. But maybe not focusing so much on the details of like, getting things right or having like the cool way of doing something or whatever. But really focusing on the way it transforms you and the actual inner alchemy, the parts that really are transforming. So, because like with the death card, especially in this Kalima card, she is just like, she destroys so that we can be, so things can come again, right? It's the natural process, which if you go all the way to the end, that's what that card's about too. And I have a really hard time pronouncing that, so whatever. But yeah, so I feel like that's what this is about, is you kind of need to focus on the transformation, not so much the details, right? Not so much the cool part of it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I think we get caught on, when you start seeing like synchronicities and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, wow, this is so cool. La, 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 la. This is amazing. This means this. And you look up every single little thing. But it's more about being aware that that's a thing. It's being more about being aware that you are aware. Does that make sense? Yes. And so anyway, so that's for somebody. And then we have our third column, which is kind of like our resources or assets, things we have to help us. And we have the Four Swords. And I like the Four Swords in this deck because this is like, they're just chilling, right? They're on their own little quest or journey or wherever they're at, and they're laying their swords down. They're not fighting. And I don't know if they're supposed to fight with each other. I'm sure it's in the book somewhere. I can't remember. But or they're not out there fighting. And the swords, to me, they're mental. It's mental energy a lot of times, and it can also be communication. But I feel like these guys are chilling, rather than squabbling or worrying about the details. Again, they are able to rest. So maybe you're somebody that as an asset, there was a time when you were able to kind of like relax. And I feel like we need to kind of go back to that. Because for some reason, I don't know why I'm saying there was a time. Maybe because of the Six of Cups and that kind of representing the past. But I think you're laying things to rest in the past that used to overwhelm your mind. Bingo. That's what it is. Okay. So I don't know. This is a big, wide rabbit hole with that one, but that's okay. So I feel like as an asset, like you're somebody who's able to kind of like put it down, right? You're able to put it down, and maybe you're at a moment, kind of like a pause. And I feel like if you're like somebody like me, sometimes that scares you because you're like, oh, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose everything that I've gone to so far. And I don't know why I do that, but I think you're kind of being like, use this as an asset. Use this rest time. This rest time could also be, there's not a bunch of crap happening in your life. Maybe you're used to chaos your whole life. And then when you don't have chaos, you don't know how to deal with that. So we're kind of being asked to like, okay, well, you've been here before. There's been other times in your life with those Six of Cups where, things were peaceful and calm. And maybe with the Six of Cups and the Four of Swords, you're kind of asked to kind of maybe have a little bit of fun, relax a little bit, and allow yourself to play. So I think this is saying this is a time where you can do that. You are able to play. You don't have to be on your guard all the time. Okay. And then my last row is kind of like your next step or what the advice is, how you kind of should move forward. And then we have the Hierophant and we have the Seven of Swords. And being as advice, I honestly feel like this is somebody who needs to take a risk. Something that feels risky, like not in a bad way. I mean, I always advise people that I feel like, not that I know everything, but I feel like if you deeply know that something is not right, you know what I mean? A lot of times we ignore those things because we like to hide our need to protect ourselves, right? And, there's legit ways you have to protect yourself in life. But on other ways, I feel like we do that out of fear or out of lack. I mean, I feel like that's, where we don't do something because we're like, well, if I fail, then I'll look like an idiot. Or, people think I'm dumb. It's like, well, you thinking that is going to cause that to happen, number one. And number two, then you're not doing it for the right reasons, right? And then paired with the Hierophant, I really feel like this is somebody who's being asked to kind of step out of the status quo. Maybe you're afraid to. Maybe you're somebody who was in like a really strict family, or maybe you're shy and, you know, you're afraid to kind of bust out in your own thing, right? And then, you know, we have that mystical shaman and the vision quest. So I don't know, it kind of feels like, and this kind of makes me feel a little bit like about yesterday's reading. It's about your own vision, your own understanding of the way things work, right? And I get that so much, because that's super important to me, is to kind of like find my own way. And then sometimes it's ridiculous to where it's like, you know, am I doing that just because I'm trying to be different? But no, it's because it feels right to me. And I feel like that's something that somebody needs to do. I think your next step and your advice is to, you know, take a risk and go against the status quo. Go against the establishment, right? Stick it to the man, you know what I mean? So maybe it's something that you're afraid to do. Maybe you're afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Maybe this is somebody who you're not used to doing something different. So, or if you are, you know, you're not quite comfortable with it, and maybe this is your time. This might be your time. And then we have our Santa Muerte Oracle. Oh, gosh, I just love the way that they explain stuff in this book. Anyway, which is also a number 11, and that's Mictacatual, and I'm going to ruin that, but that's what it is. And Mictacatual is the queen of the dead and the afterlife, responsible for memory as a whole and the individual memories memories. That's like 6 of Cups. Ding, ding, ding. Something there, maybe. Oh, yeah. So like the 4 of Swords, and I don't know, maybe I did explain that, but, and, you know, maybe putting that ruminating on things, you know, you're able to look back in your memory, because this is like your asset. You're able to look back in your memories and not be stressed about it, more like observe it. So that's beautiful. Okay. So anyway, so she's responsible for memories as a whole and individual memories. She represents the principles of synthesis and aggregation of bodies and matter. Complementary to that of her husband, and I'm not going to say it. Did I get this yesterday? I think I did. I don't know. Maybe. She's the alchemic coagula. The two joined together. Continuation on the lower level of the concept of synthesis expressed by the feminine card. In fact, we see her near some recently remolded bodies, devouring stars during the day, because just as life cannot exist without death, day cannot exist without night. And the Advice of the Dead says, the study and analysis you have done is sufficient, and the time has come to put them to work, enacting your own synthesis. Okay, yeah. This is definitely somebody, like, I don't know. You got some sort of, like, thing that you're doing in a different way. And, you know me, I think that's freaking beautiful. That's, like, my favorite thing in the whole world. And you got my vote. So, yeah, somebody, like, swallow that pride and, you know, battle that inner demon, because, you know, you've basically been on this vision quest, right? So I feel like, you know, this is so big about somebody, like, you know, this is the time. There's so much lately in these readings that it's like, it's time. That's all I keep getting. So, yeah. And then our last card, which is basically a death card too. So there's a lot about, you know, death and rebirth, you know, hugely, like, you know, somebody you're coming into your moment, and I feel like Spirit is saying that, you know, you have to take advantage of this right now, whoever this is. I mean, you don't have to do nothing, but I think it would be best if you took advantage of this, you know. Anyway, so that's number 46, Angel's Trumpet, or death. Upright, it means breakdown, cathartic transformation, rising from the ashes, elimination, death, and shedding of the old. And this is Pluto and Mars, which, you know, a lot of times that's also Tower. You know, Pluto and Mars is Tower energy. So, and this talks about, like, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but, like, when you go into the description in this deck, it talks about how the different shamanic practices of different tribes, how they would, even at a very young age, like how, and there's children in that one card. Anyway, so how they would, you know, give these children, like, these different substances. And, you know, I'm not advising you to give your children substances at all, but I'm just saying, like, it kind of represents to me the things that we've gone through, the things that we've alchemized through our lives. And, you know, that's your magic. Those are your tools, dude. Once you can figure out how to transform that is so powerful. And shamanism, you know, it's about being able to see, being able to kind of see beyond the veil, as they say. And it's also about being able to see things for other people, because some people, they're just so trapped in their fear and they're so trapped in their misunderstanding that sometimes it takes somebody on the outside, almost kind of like a counselor, you know what I mean? And then I remember reading this one book, and I can't remember what it was, but the author was talking about how you know, a lot of times they would do the different practices where they would swallow certain things, and then when they were doing the different rituals and with the patients, and then they would come out, you know, they'd be pulling these things out, or they would be swallowing certain things, and a lot of it is symbolism. But again, to me, symbolism is so important, just like ritualism, where you really have to believe in what you're believing. And if you solidify that in yourself, that's like a freaking Tony Robbins thing right there. You know, you just sit there, and if you tell yourself something and you believe it, then you can achieve it. Believe it, you can achieve it. But but it's just, I feel like somebody is definitely being asked to look on those things and with courage and compassion for yourself, like in the Strength card. This is somebody who is able to kind of you know, master those things and transform them. Because, I mean, I think you're a powerful person, whether that's a healer or something else. But, and there's something about music in this one with the dancing and all that stuff. But there's just so much about something being able to kind of see things, you know, in the dark, you know, like the shamanism is, you know, he's the one who sees in the dark, right? But there's so much symbolism in this reading about strength and being a very strong person and doing what you do in the way that you do it. And I don't know, there's been this red-tailed hawk that's just been squawking and squawking and squawking. You guys probably can't hear it, but and it's just, I don't know, I get this feeling that somebody's being called to journey. So I hope that means something to somebody today. I know it was a little rambly, but you know, I've been on one. I don't know what that is, but I've been on it. And I appreciate you guys so much.